All right, well let's go to football, Rob. And we talked about it yesterday. We talked about it a little bit today on the Dan Patrick Show. And DeSean Jackson, and obviously the situation that he found himself in, not found himself in, put himself in. Let's keep it real.
Yep. Nobody did that to him.
Right. He decided on his own to post a quote from Adolf Hitler that was stereotyping Jews, saying they want to take over the world and so on and so forth. And it turns out it wasn't even a legitimate quote from Hitler, but that really doesn't matter because you're trying to quote Adolf Hitler. Like, just think about that.
End the story. End the story.
Right. But anyway, he did apologize last night. And Julian Edelman, or 2 nights ago, Jackson apologized. But Julian Edelman, receiver for the Patriots, who's Jewish, Rob, he came out and he addressed DeSean Jackson, and here's how he did it.
I'm unusual because I didn't identify as Jewish until later in my life. Whenever I encountered hatred, it never really felt like it was aimed at me. It was only after I was part of this community that I learned how destructive hate is. It's really hard to see the challenges a community can face when you're not part of it. So what we need to do is, we need to listen, we need to learn, we need to act. We need to have those uncomfortable conversations if we're gonna have real change.
So do we have the next part where he invited him to the museum? Because Julian Edelman went on to invite DeSean Jackson to go to the Holocaust Museum with him in Washington, D.C., and then he would go to the National Museum of African American History and Culture with DeSean. And then afterwards, he said we can go out and, grab a bite and talk about it. And I thought, Rob, that the way Julian Edelman handled it was great. He didn't say, let's cancel DeSean Jackson. He said, I believe you. I accept your apology, but let's still educate one another. And I think that's the way to do it, Rob. I like that.
And it is a moment where people can learn and find out, Chris, just the whole story, what you might believe, what you've heard. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
And the museum is a great place to be able to go and see what happened, how people were treated, how they were murdered, where they lived, what was done to them. Chris, I watch those documentaries all the time. They're horrific.
Right.
They're horrific.
Right. And a lot of times we don't know. Now, we did learn, a good amount of Jewish history in school, Anne Frank.
Well, not all
and
of it,
obviously
right.
you learned about the Holocaust. But yeah, not in great detail, but you obviously learned a lot of it. We learned more about that than we learned about African American history. But when it comes to the minority communities in this country, people generally don't know the history. We don't know much Native, probably outside of Native Americans. Most people don't know about their history. General
they landed on Plymouth Rock and
yes.
Pocahontas, and there's like 5 or 10 things, Chris, that we know.
Right.
And we know the Lone Ranger had Tonto. That's seriously, that's about it.
Right. And no, that's true. And you know of general things about Jewish history, a couple things about African American history. But what we all learn is white American history, And so that's part of the challenge of us trying to come together is oftentimes, if I just look at it in black and white terms, we largely have different views of American history. Whites have one view and blacks have another view. And that it's hard to come to common ground when you're starting at different vantage points. And so that's why people have called for, and rightly so, rewriting of the American textbooks, because we got people of all different ethnicities, races, experiences in this country, and we need to learn about all the different groups so that, there's no ignorance about this stuff, and you probably at least cut down a lot of this madness that is going on.
Even like there's all kinds of stuff. I think a black person invented the stoplight. You know,
Oh,
Chris.
yeah. Garrett
And
Morgan, I believe.
The first, right?
Benjamin Banneker
the first
designed
first
DC.
heart transplant was done by a black doctor. There's
Yep.
all kinds of stuff that people don't know about, and I agree that people should know and understand all the contributions that were made by a lot of different people in this country.
Right.
That, you know,
Have you been to that National Museum, that the African American Museum in D.C. yet?
no, I've been to the one in Detroit. You know, there's one in
Yep.
Detroit, Chris. I've been there, but I've not yet to the one in D.C.
Yo.
You know, we were supposed to be at the NABJ, the National Association
Right.
of Black Journalists Convention, this week, and it was going to be in D.C., and I would have gone to see the Martin Luther King monument, Chris,
Right.
and the museum. That was a part of what I wanted to do when we were in D.C.
The museum's tremendous, man. You got to go. I would
Have you seen
recommend everybody.
the monument as well, or not
Yep.
yet? Okay.
We went to D.C. when President Obama had his was going to do his speech.
Okay.
And so we saw it then. You know, we went sightseeing, and then we've been to the museum a few times. When you go to the museum, you need at least a full day. We went 3
Really?
days. Because, I mean, I even split up with my family. Like my wife, I went once with her, and we split up. And then we took our kids, and so my daughters went together, then my wife, then me. Because you want to be able to go at your own pace. Because it's not like you're just going to walk around and, oh, yeah, look at this, look at that. Like, I was reading and learning, and you know what I mean? Like, there's like, I want to say 3 or 5 levels, but the bottom level is slavery. And I spent one day down there.
Wow.
And just reading and you know, learning everything. And then the next level was like the civil rights movement. And it's good. It's not only the civil rights movement. They talk about the Black Panthers and the Nation of Islam and all the movements for liberation. And it's great. And I actually think, I don't know, you probably can't make it a required trip for, you know, high school or elementary students that
Everybody can't
aren't
get
in
to
that.
DC.
Right. But
It's just,
it should definitely be something that not just blacks go to, but that people of all races, because it is educational.
but Edelman, Chris, here's a teaching moment, right?
Yep.
Reaching out, trying to get somebody to understand what's going on with Jewish people, what their plight and their woes, Chris, were, and their terror and their horrors, and let people understand. I think that was a good thing by him. He could have easily been dismissive.
Right. I totally agree. And I like that much better than cancel culture. Because you know, everybody makes mistakes. And even if you want to say, well, this one is a mistake, he did it on purpose, even so, a person can change. You know, and now if he shows you later on that he really hasn't changed, and that was just an apology he put out there that was insincere, that he did under public pressure, that's one thing. But you have to give people the chance to change. And I actually like that better, Rob. And I'm not saying this was necessarily a bad thing, but when Michael Vick, you know, forgave Riley Cooper, right, for using the N-word, that's fine. But Vick could have taken it a step further like Edelman and said, look, let's go to this museum, or let me give you some books to read, you know what I'm saying, about Black history, and then maybe that word won't come out of your mouth. You know what I mean? So I think that's really could be a teaching moment, that when somebody does make a mistake like this, you can forgive them, but also share with them. It doesn't have to be going to a museum with them necessarily, but recommending some books or giving them some books and giving them an opportunity, trying to help them learn. And I know it's not your responsibility, but we're in a country that's very much divided, and we're a very pluralistic society where we have so many different types of people that we're going to have to find a way for all of us to coexist in some type of peace. And not that everybody's going to agree, but we have to be, you know, allow people to believe what they believe in a lot of cases, and just, you know, just learn how to coexist peacefully.
Yeah, it ain't easy because people have been trying to do it for a gazillion years, Chris.
Yeah.
With differences, religious wars that go on, right? Very religious people fighting over religion. It's been going on forever.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
It's supposed to be peaceful and be able to love each other and over religion. So it ain't that easy. But it is good to see that maybe coming out of this, DeSean Jackson will learn from this, and maybe others will look into it a little bit more. And Chris, the thing that you said yesterday or this morning about just knowing where you're getting stuff from before you just decide to post something. There's a lot of stuff that's planted and propaganda and falsehoods, and people have narratives they're trying to push. Do you know what I mean? And people gobble that stuff up. They look at it and go, "Oh, look at this. See? This is what's going on."
Yep.
And they buy into it.
No, look, one thing that whether you like him or not, there is a lot of fake news out there. And you do have to try to find out how to decipher between it. And you're right. Like, you got to know what you're posting. It's just too easy to put something out there. And so people really need to slow down and take your time before you say something or post something. And I think that's a lesson that hopefully not only DeSean Jackson, but other people will learn from that.